We can just, sorry, I thought, okay. So how about question number 4? That kind of relates to all the material we read. What connections can you make between Elder Bednar's principles and the 4 wings of the dragonfly?
Huh?
Oh, that's a good one.
Good question.
A lot of our reading was on that, so that's probably the most.
So remind me what the Elder Bednar's reading was. I did it like last week, and I have 6 classes, so they're just all like, oh, wow.
It was Flood the Earth. It talked about how social media in a good way. Basically, he really focused on obviously flooding the earth with the gospel, but and the dragonfly effect kind of focused on, I guess I'm answering the question. So the
dragonfly was like the 4 directions at once.
Yeah, well, I'm focused on spreading more than just the gospel, but good through the internet and social media. And so the connections that I drew is really, they actually testified of the same thing, that social media can be used for more than just bad. Like, there's really a lot of good that is out there, and we can advocate for people. And then, of course, they shared the story about him with Samir and his friend who both had leukemia, and they were able to do enough good that they found the bone marrow transplant. Unfortunately, they still both died in the end.
So they said it
was really cool.
50 lives, like within a couple of years.
Yeah, because then even though they died, they ended up saving so many others. Yeah, that was really cool. And then too, I actually was working at an elementary school 2 years ago, and we had a teacher who had a really bad childbirth experience. It damaged her kidneys, and she was on dialysis. And one of our 5th grade classes did almost the exact type of campaign that we learned about with the dragonfly effect. This 5th grade class at the elementary school, they raised money, they made t-shirts, they were on the news. Also, they could get our old PE teacher her kidney that she needed to live so that she wasn't on dialysis for much longer. So it was really cool. I thought that was awesome.
That's kind of what I got out of it too, was that whether you're talking about helping people with a disease or disability, whether you're promoting a certain ideal, whether it's the gospel, that the dragonfly effect and those 4 points count in it's a mass application. Every single one you're going to want to have focus and all these different things.
And get their attention and
Is this class, did we read Contagion, Happiness Contagion? Or what is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Flood the Earth.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing about that reminded me of the Elder Bednar thing, was that nonprofit and for-profit are starting to merge, so that people are assertively seeking profit, but they're also doing good. And what could be more based in the gospel principles than that, I mean, not just our gospel, but like rightful livelihood from the Buddhist standpoint and all kinds of things. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because, like you say, you can use your agency to be productive and do what you need to do to support yourself and your family. But in that process, it can be so much bigger of a thing than just yourself.
And they talked about how that actually positively affected their bottom line.
Yeah.
Like the Gap thing, that was fascinating.
Like Gap and Google, companies like that have sought to do good things while making a profit. They prospered more. It's inspired more loyalty. So.
Yeah.
And people seem to like doing good. That's what I got from that passage. It makes people feel good to be doing good in the world, and they get to buy overpriced pants at the same time. So it's like win-win. And then people feeling good is contagious. You kind of infect other people because you're really positive and feeling good, and they're like, oh, it's really good to be with her. I'm feeling positive too. So
it's like that company. What I can't remember the shoe brand, but there's a shoe brand that one of their biggest advertising points was that for every pair of shoes you buy, they'll give shoes to a child in another country that needs shoes.
It was like Tom's, wasn't it?
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
it is Tom's.
Yep. Like there, and that's one of the reasons people like would. I remember like when those were extremely popular too. That there are people saying, "Oh, look at my shoes!" Yeah, and like they would talk about how like it's for a good cause. It's for a good cause, and that's kind of was their emotional attachment to it. Like I bought these, even though they're like maybe not the best quality shoes, because there's that advertising thing, emotional appeal, saying when you do this, you're doing something for you, but you're also doing something for someone else. And so they actually forfeited, I think, a bit of quality to do that. So it's interesting how that worked out.
One of the quotes that I really liked from the book said that profits are highest when a business is driven by like a higher cause. Like that exactly.
Yeah.
They made a ton of profit because they were advertising that they were going to send a pair of shoes to someone in need. So I'm sure that their profits were, exceeding their expectations because of that.
Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. Just like
Yeah.
I wrote down, the differences or what the dragonfly effect was compared to what Elder Bednar, the four, I guess they're four, not principles, but the four things that we should look at before we post. And the dragonfly effect was focus, grabbing attention, engage in story, and take action. And then Elder Bednar's was be authentic and consistent, edify and uplift, respect and intellectual property, and be wise and vigilant. So, they definitely, there is a similarity, but they're a little bit different.
Complementary.
Yeah, complementary.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I listened to the overview, the little video in a window a couple of times, and he never said rubric, but I think that's what he meant. So make sure when you write or post or whatever you're going to do that you pay attention to like all of those points are in your thing. If you want
I think it's a good way of looking at it as a kind of a rubric, like principles to follow for when you're posting on social media. And that kind of answers the next question, which was, do they promote and reinforce each other? The picture they posted of the young mom standing in front of Hobby Lobby wearing a pro-life shirt and holding a Chick-fil-A cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, like, oh, I see stuff like that all the time. I've never noticed how, like, what's the point? What are you advocating for in this picture? I'm not sure.
kind of mixed messages, right?
Yeah, it was confusing.
Well, it's the company they're not open on Sundays, and Chick-fil-A and Hobby Lobby, and they're pro-life, they're Christian.
Yeah, that's what I got out of it, is all of those companies have traditional Christian values.
Yes.
Oh,
And they're closed. Chick-fil-A's closed on Sunday. Yeah, and they've all had they've all been in the news. We're
Controversial issue.
yes.
Yeah.
Because they stand for Christian values.
Right.
You thought more into that than I did.
That's all right.
When I saw it, the first thing I thought was just like, that's every LDS woman in Utah.
That's what I was thinking. I'm just like,
You are always there. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
She had a messy bun. She had a messy bun, and I thought they just like chopped it off. I'm just like, yep. Like,
You guys do you have the Chick-fil-A app? Make sure you have it because you get lots of free food. It's awesome.
oh my goodness. Well,
okay. What else can we?
other questions? Does everyone want to pick one? We did that before, or otherwise I can pick the next one.
Well, I can put, I wrote down my thoughts on the similarities, and we've kind of talked about it, but I just put both are goal-oriented, being authentic and consistent. Be authentic and consistent with your message. Focus while identifying a measurable goal. The goal is to advocate for families, and the message should uplift and edify while grabbing attention with your message. I guess that goes along with that same question of what the similarities were.
Mm-hmm.
Which question is that?
That went with, it was right after,
Oh, okay.
was it 4? What
Do they
connection?
promote and reinforce each other? Is that one?
Yes.
Down that same alley. How about as far as technology? This is probably good discussion type questions.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'd like to hear what people think about the second one. I mean, I've heard like that guy who invented Facebook saying, you know, I invented it so that me and my college friends who were really tight could stay in touch. It's a crazy, hectic world, and I find myself having the same conversation with each one, you know. Oh, and the pictures of your kid, and we send them out here, there, and everywhere. So like, it's just kind of a, you know, group email site, and that's what he envisioned. And he said, if I knew that people were going to post pictures of what they ate for breakfast every morning, I would have just not invented the whole thing, you know. And I'm like, I have a hard time seeing the Lord might be behind it. I mean, I do see that it could be, you know, if we all like kind of jumped in there and made it really positive, you know. But I just got off of it because, you know, like my friends would send me, sometimes they'd be hilarious pictures of cats playing the piano or something, but it wasn't like super life affirming. You know what I mean? And then sometimes I would just get weird things and I'd be really upset because I didn't like them. You know, it's like, I can't like pictures. I just can't like pictures of your cat, Linda. You know, it's like, and people will send me more cat pictures.
I too got off of it just when the youth did that fast, you know, and then the prophet asked us, the women, to fast. I felt that Facebook was very negative for me. It was one of the social medias that one of my accounts that was very negative, just because, yes, I was feeding, you know, you feed through it and there's all kinds of political and anti-church and whatever. And then I'm looking at everybody.
That's why I got off when I got married, is because of all of that stuff. It's
yeah,
like you can give a reasoned argument with documentation. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're on their vacations and I'm not, and it's just
I know, right?
So yeah, so I got off of Facebook and I just use Instagram, and I communicate with my daughter through, what's that little one with the ghost? Pick the yellow ghost. Snapchat. Yeah. So anyway, so for me, my life has just gotten a lot better. But I do know what you're saying, Zuki, about, you know, is this really from the Lord? But I think it can be. That
it's also such a time suck. How many times have you been in Target and you see this woman with like 2 really young children who are just like totally checked out? They need her attention, and she's on her phone, you know, like Facebooking, when she could be like in the moment, kind of making a real difference in the child's life, you know.
I think this seems kind of an odd comparison, but I think that technology now, like our use of phones, internet, social media, it's kind of comparative to like contraceptives, like the effect of contraceptives when they became more introduced. The original purpose was good, to give women more agency and more ability to choose when she's going to have children, pursuing education, other opportunities. And so there's a lot of good that could come from it. But just like,
and to stop having children at some point,
yeah,
you know?
it's a tool. It's a tool, and it is what we make of it. And so I think, and that's from Elder Bednar's talk, the Flooding the Earth. He talked about how we shouldn't reject the tools the Lord has given us, but we should choose to use them in a way that uses them for good, regardless of how stupid other people are in using them. Because I agree, like getting on Facebook, sometimes I'll be like, oh, there's just all this junk in there of people being extremist in one way or another. But I think, especially about our opportunity this week to post on social media about something that was important, following the principles, Elder Bednar, and the talk about the dragonfly effect, the ripple effect, that we have the opportunity to add good to it and to dilute the bad, I guess.
And I would say, to add to that, like, I liked a lot of the quotes that were in his talk from some, not that I don't like Elder Bednar, I totally do, but they were from other prophets. And like one of the things that he talked about is Spencer W. Kimball said, with the Lord providing these miracles of communication and with the increased efforts and devotion of our missionaries and all of us and all others who are sent, surely the divine injunction will come to pass. For verily the sound must go forth from this place into all the world and unto the uttermost parts of the earth. the gospel must be preached unto every creature. And so I thought that was really interesting, because I know sometimes when I'm at listening to conference, not at conference, but virtually at conference, and they announce new temples and things like that, I think that a lot of the times we think so materialistically of what to all the ends of the earth means, and maybe that has actually already come to pass if you think about it with the internet. The
That's what I
gospel
think.
is all over the earth because of the internet. And so in that respect, I would say it is the Lord's hand, but then you have to take into account that it is an earthly material thing, the internet. So of course Satan can have hold on it, and it does cause some of those things like Jody and Suki were talking about, of like the addictive properties and not paying attention to your kids and different things like that. Because I too am not a big fan of Facebook. I deleted it off of my phone, and I really try to not look at it, because I became conscious of exactly what you're talking about, Suki. I am a mom of a 1-year-old, and I feel guilty even if I answer a text message. I'm probably a little bit over the top with it, because I'm so conscious about it from taking these kinds of classes and stuff. But like,
But no, you have to tell your children 1 million words in the first 4 years. I mean, you're on a schedule here. Speak more. You know what I mean?
Well, and I'm all about that. I worked in the schools. I take these classes. Like, I'm very conscious of, am I reading her enough books? Are we talking enough? Do we do baby sign language and different stuff like that? And if you have your phone in your hands, you just, I think you forget, you know, it drags you in so hard.
And the eye contact thing, we're mammals, you know, especially with your baby, you need eye contact. That's where bonding and all kinds of stuff come in. And I don't have any babies. My kids are like college age, and sometimes it just pisses me off, you know, put it down.
Let's talk. Yeah.
I'm looking at you, you know, I don't know.
Well, the same thing, we notice the same thing as adults that children notice too. Like when you're on a date with your spouse or on your date in general, if the person you're with pulls out their phone, you immediately feel like you're less important. You're like,
I'm single. It's like, check, please, right?
Yeah, you're like, wait, like, what are we doing here? I thought we were here to spend time together, and you don't want to, and you don't feel like you can say that. You kind of feel awkward. Like, do I tell them? Can you please put your phone away? Like,
yeah, you can.
But like, that's the way kids feel. I mean, I've seen moms, moment that the kids pull a phone, the kids become more insistent for attention, because they can tell, like, my mom's not paying attention to me anymore. She's somewhere else. So.
Yeah. I remember, like, my child was like 14 or 15, my daughter. And we were like, and like this texting obsession was kind of new back then. She's like 26 now, so it was 12 years ago. And we were checking out at the grocery store, and I'm like, you need to be off the phone. She's like, why do I need to be off the phone? We're checking out at the grocery store. And I'm like, because this is a family event, and you need to take on adult roles and help me with the groceries. And, you know, and I'm like, because I said so. You know, and then suddenly I realized, like, everybody's listening when they all cracked up, you know. And then I realized, sadly, for the first time, like, that all of the checkers were like smoking hot bus boys about her age. I'm like, okay, bad timing, but good message, you know.
Put down your phone and pay attention to cute boys around you.
At least that, you know, or, you know, help me bag these groceries or something, you know.
Oh my goodness.
So sorry to interrupt, but I just got a little
please
thing pop up that said, because it's my first Zoom meeting, I get unlimited minutes on my first.
Oh, wow, live it
So
up.
I've been
Jody.
recording it. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but
live it up. Just use all those minutes.
That's great. I think we're
so
supposed
Chloe,
to have 8 minutes per individual, so 8 minutes per meeting member.
Yes. So 8 times 6 is 48.
Yeah.
Nice.
15 minutes.
Wait, no, there's 6 of us. Yeah, 6
yeah, there are.
Yeah, 8 times 6 is 48.
Right?
Okay.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And
I need to
you
go
know,
back
Cody,
to
you
junior
brought
high.
up the first question about what we think the greatest technology.
48.
Greatest technological invention or advancement. I put the smartphone just because you can access everything. You can have your scriptures in your pocket. You can have your email. You can have all your bank accounts, your phone, anyway, I put the smartphone was the greatest invention.
I say internet. So
I put immunizations. I mean, I guess it's not like silicone-based technology, but like, you know, compared to like wiping out smallpox, you know, do I really need the Safeway app on my phone? You know, it's just kind of.
But you do need vaccinations. That's a good point.
You know, I think they're rather fabulous.
oh yeah, we don't have people suffering from polio and suffering with crippled limbs the rest of
Oh,
their
I
lives.
know. When I got a polio vaccine,
What was
my
that?
grandmother cried. She was just so amazed. Oh my God, you'll never get polio? And I'm like,
It
yeah.
used to be a real fear. What were you saying, Brittany?
Oh, I just said that they're better than being in an iron lung.
Yeah,
I know.
that's for sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think it's the internet, like, just because now, at least from a gospel perspective, like, things like people in countries who didn't have, maybe they lived in a community where they felt separated from the church as a whole. I mean, who wouldn't be able to hear the gospel, hear from the prophets, for like months, years even, who felt really isolated. Now they were able to have more community, I guess, like feel part of I lived up in Minnesota for like 6 years, and we were so spread out. We never saw the members of the church except for the little branch on Sundays, and it felt really isolated. But with like General Conference and with other online resources, it didn't feel like we're in this alone. From that perspective, like the sense of community and communication that increased. It doesn't take months to communicate anymore.
You know,
Right.
I served a mission in New Zealand a long time ago, but we'd have to wait like 30 days to get the VHS tape of conference.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
it's amazing.
so crazy.
Yeah, live streaming would have blown your mind then, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure. Jeez.
Yeah, now our biggest thing is, oh no, it paused.
We're
We're gonna miss a couple seconds to talk.
Like electricity too. That's a big one, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with my electric heater in Alaska, you know, like, well, I'm really, really fond of it, you know.
Especially you're really cold up there right now, aren't you? So
You know, it's not as cold as it should be. It's really scary. It was like 47 last week in January in Alaska.
Much more
How-
there than I did in
Really?
Virginia.
How
It's
can
been
you not
way
believe in
too
climate change? I mean, everybody was freaking out. So it's like 31 degrees. It's going to get down to 29. But when I lived in Northern California,
7
it got,
degrees. So.
I know, right? Well, when I lived in California, it sometimes got that cold in the winter. It didn't stay that cold, you know, in like northern middle California, it got that cold. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, eventually it'll -11, and I'll just be like, no.
Yeah, electricity is definitely a blessing. Better health, better, less focus on physical needs, and so people can focus on higher needs.
Yeah. I think that has a lot to do with why the Lord inspired things like electricity. Because with the electricity and internet and all these things that have come about in the last, say 200 or 300 years, all of it has resulted in the work of God going forward and the plan of salvation as a whole moving forward more and more and more rapidly.
No, definitely. Like there are no coincidences in that. They're inspired inventions.
Yeah. Yep, that's how I have figured too.
So I wanted to ask, use like third from the bottom, use the above readings from the dragonfly effect as a barometer. What evidence was left out that could have helped to further reinforce the argument? Do you have any idea what that question means? I'm just kind of like.
I kind of avoided it because I didn't understand it completely.
I didn't understand it either. Okay. Well, that's just helpful. At least I'm norming myself with my peers.
My understanding of the question is when you were looking at these various websites and blogs and things, when you're reading the argument they were making, like supporting traditional family, for example, or whatever, was there things that you thought, oh, they should have said this?
Do you think it's that's relating to the article, the blogs that we had to look up in preparation for the meeting, or?
That's what I understood, because I actually brought mine up, and I think, yeah, because that's number 2 of the questions. What evidence was left out? And I said I couldn't think of anything that was left out. I found the ideas presented persuasive because I find the ideas are true and accurate. They work, and I know they work because I've lived them. So that's what I put for the answer to that question based off of those blogs I was looking at.
Yeah. I noticed some, I looked up a blog, I looked up 2 blogs. One of them was like a writer's blog centered towards helping writers and stuff. And I noticed that it was more like information based which is informative, and that's good. And there was a lot of resources and stuff available, but there wasn't a story being told, like why we're doing this, why are we doing this to begin with.
So like according to that list, what was left out? Okay, that's a good read on that question. I didn't really connect those 2 until Cody did.
Using
the list of those things. What is it like?
Yeah, they took
Focus,
it out of its original.
Grab the attention, take action, all those little lists, those bullet points on the 2 lists. That could be evidence that was left out. And it would have made it more persuasive if they had addressed all those things.
Yeah. Like the 4 I looked at did good. Like I had a blog last year from my family proclamation class that I kept up for this class instead of being on Facebook. And I think I presented my case well on various issues. There was a YouTube channel that a girl does, she and her husband, because she has ADHD and she's always giving out positive support. And so that I thought she did good and covered everything. And then my wife had a Christmas post from, a few weeks ago, and her friend had, and so I looked at all 4, and that's what I used to do that evaluation. And so I based everything off of those 4, and I thought they hit all the points and did a good job, for example.
I just had a question. So when we were looking up those websites and things, were we just supposed to do that in preparation for this meeting, or are we supposed to submit it somewhere? Because it said something weird. It was in preparation for your HOA.
Yeah, what is HOA?
I didn't know what that meant either, so I kind of thought it was just for the meeting, and the HOA was an abbreviation I didn't understand, but I also have no idea.
That's what I think.
I asked it on the questions board, but he never answered, so I have no idea what it means.
Well, I'll have to see if he ever answers you in case the answer is something different.
Tell him it means homeowners association, which doesn't make any difference at all.
Pretty sure we're not submitting anything to the homeowners association.
I sat there for 20 minutes trying to figure out what it was. And I went through the syllabus and everything. I was like, there's got to be this is an abbreviation that I just missed somewhere.
Me too.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out either. So I went ahead and took notes when I did that other assignment, and I saved it just in case I need it. But
Okay.
If it's not brought up again before the week's end, then I guess it's just maybe save the URLs for the blogs, but that's about it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so we still have another, I looked up the time requirements, supposed to be about 50 minutes for 6 people. And so we have about 10 minutes left. So is there anything that anyone would like to discuss in further detail? Specifically, we have a couple questions we haven't discussed yet we can go into.
Well, there was something about where is that question? I don't think it was in the Zoom questions, but within the lesson, it was something about why the Lord. Oh, sorry. Let me see if I can find it. Someone else can speak because I lost my train of thought.
You're good.
Oh, why have we witnessed? I found it. Sorry. Why have we witnessed such acceleration in technologies in these last days, and why do you think the Lord might be behind it? We kind of talked about that, I guess.
We did answer that one. Sorry, I just know because I wrote down all the answers. So
Okay.
We
Never
can talk
mind.
about it.
we can.
So you can
if you have more to
recapitulate.
say.
What did we say?
You actually specifically talked about, like, that was what we just talked about. Like, I think we kind of got carried into something that kind of circled around back to it. But anyway, we talked about, is it addictive or is it from the Lord when it is addictive and time consuming? Jody, you talked about Facebook and not being on it, that it's not really good for everyone. Cody mentioned that social media is good for some, but should be used wisely. And I talked about the Lord meaning it to spread the gospel to the world, that it's less of a material thing, but that Satan also has hold over it, so we can fall into the woes of it, and that kids, spouses, our dates, people in general need our attention, so we should put our phone down if it's being that consuming. But we did kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I think I would just add to that the missionary work, I guess, is accelerated that has become with the missionaries. And I think it's really cool how they can email a letter to everyone on their list. And because back when I was a missionary, it was like one letter at a time. And that accelerated that. And I love getting the missionary letters because it really strengthens my testimony. And then just that, they have their iPads now. Everything's just so accelerated with missionary work and with temple work, and the ability to do our genealogy. Anyway, that's it.
I think that at least my focus about social media and about like other things, like it's a tool, and it's how we use it that defines like what effect it's going to have. Like spoons don't make us fat, but if we eat 3 gallons of ice cream, we will get fat. Or we can use it.
That's a great analogy.
And so it's our action that makes it good or bad, but it's not inherently bad.
The other thing I would say is, like, I think that the internet is cool because not only does it just reach like a larger population, but it reaches a new generation, in my opinion. Like you were talking about the missionaries, Jody, and I think that that social media and the internet is a tool for missionaries to teach people who are younger than maybe the population that they would be teaching if they were just knocking on doors.
Something that occurred to me while you guys were talking is that we do have like real concrete signs that we are entering the last dispensation. I read recently that if we don't correct our carbon emissions by 2050, we cannot come back from the brink. That, life on our planet just will be hostile to human beings. And so if we're this close to the end of the end, amen, it's really vital to reach as many people as possible with the gospel. It's sort of the last chance Texaco to get into the life raft, so to speak, in terms of the eternal life raft or whatever. And what could do that better than this? Sit down. Better than this tool that just goes everywhere at the click of a button.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was kind of a downer. It sounded better in my head, but
no, it's totally true. Like, and it's not like Heavenly Father, He extends every opportunity for us up until like the last minute. Like He's trying to give opportunities. So, but as far as our earthly existence, there is the boat is loading. So
last call for the flight.
Before the date. Yeah.
So we only have 5 more minutes or so. Can people tell me what you're doing for the Facebook post thing?
I did mine.
I don't know what I'm doing.
So I feel like the instructions were a little bit vague and kind of left it up to us what we wanted to share. So with all the recent, outbreaks and things going on, I decided to share mine about like the power of vaccines and kind of
how topical. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Like so, my sister from another mister.
Yeah, I kind of explained why anti-vaxxing is a threat to the family because it's leaving children, open to disease and health issues that can be prevented. But I think as far as choosing a topic or a social media platform, it's kind of just up to us how we want to do it, as long as we're implementing the, the principles from Elder Bednar and everything.
I'd say if you choose something that's important to you, or maybe something that's been on your mind recently, no matter what, following principles.
It's funny because I had, I was saying, for my family proclamation class, or one of those classes last semester, in the spring, we had to start a blog. So I started a WordPress blog. And so I just started talking about this stuff. And so my first post, I've only done the one so far, was just, I had done an assignment last semester on the dangers of cohabitation with the researchers. So I just did a little blurb on that and put what the research was.
Mm-hmm.
I figure, well, why reinvent the wheel? I already have the information, and it hasn't changed in 6 months. So I just did that.
Yeah, I wrote about, because it's me and my husband's our anniversary today, and so
happy anniversary.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that anyway, and I was thinking about most of my aunts and uncles have gotten divorced. They got divorced when I was pretty young. They all got married and divorced within a very short amount of time.
Wow.
And there was a lot of, so I have 7 aunts and uncles. I think 6 of them had got married and divorced within a 10-year period. So it was very traumatic to my family, and there was a lot of anger, and nothing got resolved because my extended family's a mess. But I was thinking about first of all, it's another way we know that divorce is contagious. It's contagious, just like happiness is. It's contagious. And so I wrote about marriage and commitment, that the greatest predictor of a lasting marriage is commitment. And so,
wow,
that's for sure.
God, that's so much better than any of my ideas.
No.
Okay, so the one really vague idea I had,
it's gonna be great.
You guys should help me spitball this just because I'm really nice. I was thinking about blended families. I went to a graduation in May, and it's getting a while now, but I'm still traumatized from it. Well, my daughter graduated, and her dad left the family with another woman, and we really got the rug pulled out from under us. But it was 25 years ago. I mean, that was horrible and hard. Okay, it wasn't. I'm exaggerating, but it was nearly 20 years ago. And it was horrible and it was hard, and I don't understand his choices. And he's really miserable, which makes it easier for me to forgive him, Just whatever. But it was so awkward and so horrible. And none of us had any social scripts. And I'm sitting there with my ex-husband and his new beige wife. That's what my kids called her, the beige wife. And they're grown children who we just don't have anything in common with. And then my mother-in-law, I guess she'd be my ex-mother-in-law. It was just, and I just kept thinking, why is this so awkward? Why can't we just sit at the same table and eat the best Mexican food on the planet and just be okay, it is what it is, But there was just so emotionally charged. And I wonder, what could I do just to help blended families get over themselves and just be the best dysfunctional family they can be, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah, I think
I like that.
I think there are many more blended families today because of and many divorces that have occurred. And so I think that's a great idea. I mean, I personally know many blended families, and all of them, there's still lasting effects years after divorce and remarriage, especially for the kids. But they can still be happy. It takes time and a lot of discipline and practice and
Counseling. It takes counseling.
that too.
That's the harsh reality that nobody wants to believe in, but in all reality, if you'd like to have a healthy, successful blended family, you should just sign up for family counseling.
And why don't anybody do it? My son's going through a really messy divorce, and I'm go to counseling. You guys, you're the poster child of the the massive implosion. Just go to counseling and sort all this out. Take the lesbian wife with you, God forbid, just sit down and sort this out. You have a 4-year-old, And they're like, no, we're just going to pray to God.
The moment you bring up counseling, people get defensive, like, oh no, that's when you really have issues. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm going to wait until this family is like completely broken, and then we're going to go. Like, why would you do that? Would you wait until you're dying to go to the doctor?
Exactly. Let's wait until stage 4 cancer, and then we'll start treating it really.
Yeah. Well, it didn't work, so I guess I'm gonna have to go to the doctor now.
Wow, this ain't going away by itself. We should really do something about it. It's like, oh yeah.
I know, but then it takes so much longer to recover if you go to counseling early on, like after trying some things yourself too, but like within a reasonable amount of time, you can be happier so much faster.
I know, right?
It seems like that's the attitude with mental health, is the stigma.
No, it's true.
Yeah, it's amazing how. So I've done a lot of counseling just throughout the years. My parents divorced and I lost my parents or whatever, but it's just been nothing but positive. Yeah, and I can. It's easy for those who have done it to say, "Oh, just go do it." It's easy, but yeah, there's some stigma behind it, I think.
Yeah, there really is. My son's like, I don't need to go. I'm not the one that bailed on the marriage. I'm like, yeah, you're the one that got bailed on, go unpack that,
I think a large part of that is like media representation of mental health and counseling. Like
especially marriage counseling. Doesn't that seem kind of especially like goobery, marriage counseling? It's ugly.
Science, the way they portray it.
I feel like
does everyone think it's going to be like that Springer show or something? Everyone's I can't remember the name of that. Is that what they think it's going to look like? Jerry Springer. There we go.
What were you going to say, Brittany?
Can you say it, Brittany?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I feel like people think if you need counseling for your marriage, then obviously it's not a good marriage. You should just divorce. Like, I feel like that's what a lot of people view it as. Like, if it's bad enough that you need counseling, why are you even in your marriage?
Yeah, or that you failed in some way.
Yeah, I think
the truth is we could all use it from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think we could all use at least one counseling session, regardless of what's going on in our lives. We would all benefit just from going and discussing regular life stressors. Like, I would love to go to a counselor and just be like, I'm looking for different tools I can use. How am I doing, basically? But we don't treat it that way. We treat it as a last-ditch effort.
Right.
So, are any of y'all planning on going into counseling?
Yeah, I'm actually looking into a grad program right now to become a licensed family therapist.
Are you doing it online?
Yeah, I'm doing it online through Liberty University.
Liberty.
Oh, wow.
I'll find that out.
That's so awesome. Well, this is the perfect class then for that.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
So, Karina, you're supposed to do our
summary
real quick, and then so I think we're at 55 minutes.
Okay. I'm going to start from the top because we actually almost went in order. So question number 1, what do you think is the greatest technological advancement in history? We talked about, Jody talked about the smartphone, and we discussed how much you have with you. She said your scriptures, your email, your phone contacts, etc. And then also touched on that even though we might not remember it, there was a time when she served her mission and they had to wait 30 days to get the VHS tape of conference, that it wasn't just right there available to stream. Suki talked about immunizations being the best advancement because things like wiping out smallpox and that you do indeed need vaccinations. Cody talked about the internet. People in other countries can hear the gospel. It's at their fingertips. And she said we are more of a community and feel part of each other's world, which I thought was really a beautiful thing to say about that. Electricity is also a huge blessing. And then Adam pointed out that the Lord inspired things like electricity and the internet because it has all resulted in the plan of salvation moving forward as a whole more rapidly. The next question we discussed was, why have we witnessed such an acceleration in technology in these last days, and why do you think the Lord might be behind it? We kind of talked about the controversy of it. Is it from the Lord when it's addictive and time consuming? That it's not always good for everybody, but that if you use it wisely, it can definitely be used for good. We talked about that the Lord possibly meant it to spread the gospel to the world and that there are really huge benefits. Missionary work is extremely accelerated and has accelerated in the way of sending letters, temple work, and family history. It's how we use the internet and the action that we perform that dictates if the internet is good or bad, and in that social media as well. And then Suki talked about that this is the time that it's vital that we reach as much of the population as we possibly can, and the internet is a really good tool for that. What connections can you make between Elder Bednar's principles and the 4 wings of the dragonfly? Both of them focus on spreading good. We need to get the attention of the world. Both Elder Bednar's talk and the dragonfly effect promote doing good. And even when we are seeking profit, if we can still focus on the good, then success comes just from that. Use your agency to help others, and people feeling good is often contagious. One of the examples that was brought up was Tom's, because when you buy a pair of those shoes, with each purchase, a pair of shoes is donated to a child in another country. Both the talk and the dragonfly effect are complementary, and they do promote and reinforce each other. We talked about the picture that was posted of the young mom and how it promotes traditional Christian values. Things like Chick-fil-A being closed on Sunday, same with Hobby Lobby, and then her pro-life shirt. And then we talked just a small bit about the evidence that was maybe left out, and from what I gleaned, and I hope this is correct, somebody help me if I'm wrong, that the blogs versus the dragonfly effect, that there was information, but it didn't really feel like a story was always being told, and that some of them did not answer the question why. So that's it. That's what I have.
That sounds good. I like it.
Wonderfully done.
That was great. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording, okay?
Okay.
And I'm